Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Tomorrow's Talent Series Q&A. My name is Jana Toomey. I'm with Michigan Tech's Center for Educational Outreach. Tomorrow's Talent Series is all about showcasing in-demand careers through virtual job shadowing videos, Q&As, and curriculum resources. Today, we have a very special guest. We are joined by Eric Pad, the founder and president of the Caregiver Incentive Project. Hi, Eric. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Jana. Thank you. Good morning to you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be asked.
So for those of you, if you haven't had the chance to watch the Caregiver Incentive Project video, be sure to check it out on our Tomorrow's Talent Series website. If you have any questions today, there will be a Q&A feature which you can utilize at the bottom of your screen. So with that, let's jump into some questions.
I'm ready.
All right. So just to get us started here, can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Caregiver Incentive Project?
Yeah, we've been in existence only 2 years, and it's a process that took about 5 years to get here, though. I started long ago. I have an adult daughter, 31. She's disabled. We will need help the rest of her life, and her mother and I won't be here for that. And so as I began to look for that help, I found it very wanting that the caregivers weren't taking good care of themselves or trained, or there's a lot of things lacking. So that began to stir in me. And then as I looked more and more, I seen that it wasn't just a local problem. It's a huge problem. It's a national problem. It's a crisis as far as I'm concerned. And so began to talk to a lot of people up and down the chain, and mostly people that live it, like me and my wife and my daughter, that are either cared for or the caregiver. And then that just stirred in me. That voice inside me said, fix it. If you're not you, why not? Who's going to do it if you don't do it? And so I started the process, getting the right people around me that knew what they were doing to form it. And then so June of 2019, we went public, if you will. So we've been doing this publicly for 2 years now. And that's how we got here today.
Did you have any history working with nonprofits before Caregiver Incentive Project?
No, I don't. I knew of them. I donated to them, if you will, when I thought they were a good cause. But other than that, no, it was hit the ground and start asking the people that did know what they were talking about, had experience doing it. So no prior experience.
Wow. So what would you say would a really great day in this role look like for you?
Well, the best day in the world that I like is when I help someone, when I can see the actual fruit of it. I can see somebody that maybe didn't have a caregiver or was struggling to get a caregiver, and then now they have a caregiver, or they're confident in what's going on, in their lives, whether it be someone that's elderly, and that's not everybody that needs care. It's not just the elderly, it's the medically fragile or the disabled. And but the best thing that I can see in a day is the contentment or the satisfaction or the calm on someone's face that the unknown has been made into a known. They have a caregiver, and the caregivers are showing up. That would be the best day in the world.
So what are some of the benefits of running and managing a nonprofit, or even working at a nonprofit organization, over a traditional for-profit business?
Well, in a lot of ways, I think one of the benefits are that it can be more personal. Again, if you're working at a convenience store, you are providing a service and you are helping them, or a restaurant or a traditional or in a factory. You can see the vehicles you help make go down the road or something like that. But this, in so many nonprofits, is so personal. I mean, you are helping somebody right down to this individual. You're making a difference in their life. And I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, there's so many things you need to be, like a business manager or accounting, or all those things that all businesses have, but it's a more it tugs more in your heart, I think, is the biggest thing of it can be at a nonprofit, and that, I think, is probably the biggest payoff of being part of a nonprofit.
It's always great to do something that you love.
Yeah, Yeah, that you love and that you can see the difference. Again, building a house is a great thing. I've done that in my life. I was a dairy farm, born on a dairy farm. That's a great thing too. But to actually see personally the individuals that you touch their lives in a positive difference, very rewarding, very rewarding.
So your video for Tomorrow's Talent series features a lot of different ways in which nonprofits can raise funds to continue their mission. When you're applying for grants and other funding sources, are those typically multiple year awards, or do you have many applications that you need to fill out annually?
I would say there isn't any, well, there's probably some common core and things, but grants are very specific to the place you're applying for. Some are some basic information and some are very in-depth. And a lot of that has to do with the amount of funding they're giving you. And I wouldn't say they're usually an annual thing, like, in February you apply for, if you want equipment or something, help with that, or you apply for different things. And then so many things are different, whether it be healthcare, or some people are interested in healthy aging, or some people are just interested in hearing aids for children because they're very expensive or something. So some of the product that you give them, like your history and what you do and what you intend to do with their money, is kind of the same thing, but you've got to get to know the place where you're applying for, the foundation or the agency. And that's the best way. And in fact, that's kind of the funnest part too, is getting to make that relationship with that organization and fit their mission. And then yeah, sometimes you reapply every year. A lot of things that are important to places that fund grants are sustainability. Most grants are meant to help you get started, to help you plan, to help you deploy your idea. And then they may be 2 years funding, or maybe like a planning grant and then followed with an implementation grant. But it's all unique, I think, to each individual foundation or place that you're applying to, with some common core information.
So how do you usually find out about different funding availability and opportunities?
Well, part of that is just good old word of mouth sometimes, and it's talking to other people that do it. It's talking to people that are granting you money. A lot of them put out newsletters, so you start getting on the list when you find out about a new foundation somewhere and you find out about what they're interested in. Our grant writer, she gets or maybe more than one, almost there's like a statewide notification of things that the state is interested in, and that, so, but mostly newsletters and then word of mouth. And then again, someone else tells you, well, we applied years ago for a grant from so-and-so. Oh, they're still there. And that's how you keep in touch, it's good old word of mouth, or electronically word of mouth kind of thing.
So another potential funding source is just individual contributions to a nonprofit. As you mentioned, you have donated to some nonprofits in the past. If an individual makes a contribution to a nonprofit organization, are there any benefits that they get in return other than, the pride and satisfaction that they're helping the organization?
Yeah, well, first off, there's a tax break. You can take it, any kind of a charitable contribution is tax exempt, so you pay a little bit less taxes on your money that you earn. And but it can be not only the satisfaction, but depending on the size of the donation, you can come and help us. You can't steer the money, but you can help us decide a little bit better how to better use it. And one of the things too is, if you donate a X amount of money, you can, I like to say that we want to spend the money where we got the money, so up here in Upper Michigan. So if you're on the west side of Upper Michigan, or the east side or something like that, or a specific around a college or something like that, or a town, then we want to benefit where the money came from. Well, the individuals that donated that can be part. As an example, the scholarships that we give, one of the foundations, we named some of them after that foundation. And then we had some individuals that donated enough to fund the scholarships, so we named it after that. So then the individual that received it wrote a thank you note to those people, so it was very personal. And then they seen again, back to that personal connection, is they actually got a letter handwritten from the individual, and that again, that's that warm warm feeling, but that's how it's so personal that you can see the difference you made, uh, or at least know the difference you made, that you helped that nonprofit operate, uh, and then that operating that nonprofit are the outcome is what they say it's going to be. Uh, they're doing what they said with your money. They're good stewards of it.
I'm glad you bring that up, being good stewards of it. What kind of follow-up information do you typically need to provide after receiving a grant or other funding source?
So as a minimum, everybody that's ever granted us money want an annual report. They want to know that we're good stewards of their funding, and if you apply for money, you're not just asking for a bucket of X amount of money. You're saying we're going to spend this much money in the research and development of, if for lack of a better way of saying it, or the understanding of this, or the development of a training course in that. So they want to know that you did that with the money they gave you, and then they want to know the outcome. How many people did you reach with your training? What was the outcome of that training? What was the intended outcome? To recruit and keep people as caregivers? Well, did you? You measure those. So minimum, you give back a year. Every year you have to file a report with them. But on the way we do it, it's more personal than that. A lot of times, we're on a first name basis with them. A lot of them are mentoring or are happy to mentor, in the nonprofit world. That kind of your first question, did I know anything, or that early on, no, but they're happy to help you succeed. They want you to succeed, especially if they're going to give you funding. And then sometimes they give you half of the funding, and it depends on how you use that half, and before they decide to give you the other half of it, that again, they need to report back. And sometimes they personally want to show up at what you're doing to see the dollars at work, if you will. And so I think that answers your question. I hope that answers your question. I drifted off there maybe a little bit, but I think I answered what you were asking.
That was great. So do you have any advice for students who are maybe interested in getting into business, particularly those who may be interested in working for a nonprofit?
Well, certainly if you're a student still in school and that, there's internships at nonprofits like there is at the bank, or something like that. There's volunteer opportunities, and volunteering can be working in the office, can be uh, working with a grant writer. Our grant writer mentors people, and grant writing is a very unique thing, and they touch on it in some of the classes, but they don't go in depth about it. And grant writing is a very unique thing. But I would say start asking around and looking around, go visit some nonprofits or look them up on the internet and see what's locally, because some of the things, some nonprofits are huge organizations like the American Red Cross. They're a monster of a nonprofit. And then some are very local with one person just trying to make a good thing at a thing down the street, trying to clean up a playground or have some place for young people to go, other than just walk around the streets, but have a safe place to go. But yeah, volunteer, go in and talk, walk in and stop at the front desk and say, I'd like to help. I know if you did that to me, we'd find a place for you.
So what do you think are some of the most important characteristics of people who work at nonprofits?
Some of them are very tangible, the basic be on time and all those kind of things, but the one I keep going back to is the heart, or the feeling, or the emotion of it, the very personal part of it. And that you can't really teach that. You got to have that. You got to have that commitment, and you got to have that want to. And and I sometimes have this, even me personally, is the patience to see it through, the patience to see that maybe in one day you're not going to make the huge difference, but in the long run you are headed in the right direction. You are part of something bigger than yourself. And that again comes from an internal feeling, I think, mostly. And the camaraderie of like-minded people. I've worked in organizations where Friday you go home, they don't care. Just be back to work Monday morning. And in a nonprofit, a lot of times you find a little bit more of a personal connection. And I think that's the part that drives people to do things. You know, there's several careers in nursing and teaching and things like that come to mind. First responders and military, that's more a calling than it is just a career. But I think nonprofits are that same way. It's kind of a calling, that tugging that says, you know, go out there and do some good for the world, make the world a little better place, focus on the needs of others, and you'll feel better about yourself, kind of thing. So.
And then do you have any other useful skills for this work that maybe are a little bit teachable?
Well, you know, I think the spirit of creativity, and then that's teachable when you get in a group, and that creativity can be, I know I cherish that in people, and the phrase that I use often is just find the right people and put them on the bus, and then together find out the right seat on the bus. You just know, because of the makeup of that person, the energy of that person, that man, they're right on the team. I don't know what position they're going to play on the team or on the bus or whatever, but you just know it. But part of that is creativity, that you're not locked in it. You know, it's got to be filled out on a form exactly this way. Now let's throw that form out if we have to. Let's just do it. Let's make the world a better place instead of this bureaucracy of, you know, because we get it. We get that. The naysayers, we get the naysayers will show up. They'll be happy to show up and tell me, you can't do that. You know, I'm not asking any of them permission. We're just going to do it. And like-minded people that have that spirit, I think would be, again, something then that can be trained or harnessed or channeled with a group of people, then that excitement and creativity and that stuff. So yeah, I think creativity, and then channel it would be, I think, a great thing to come to my front door and ask. So.
All right, last one here. Is there anything else that you would like students to know about this field that we haven't discussed yet?
You know, I think it's just summarizing. I think I touched on it probably 20 times in here, is it's personal. It can be very personal. You can see right down at this level, you can see the individual and you made a positive difference in their life. And you can see them again and again, maybe, you know, and then you can help them even grow in that. So I would summarize it in that's what I think a nonprofit can do, or being part of a nonprofit can do. Even your traditional school, your stuff that you learn in school, you know, go out and try to use it in a creative way and in a personal way. And if you can't do it as a career, you can certainly still do it as a volunteer. You know, you can be a banker or whatever other careers there are, but, you know, use that creative spirit and that want to help others, and find a place to channel that at a nonprofit.
That's really great advice. Well, Eric, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. I'd also like to thank our other Tomorrow Talent Series partners, the MyStem Network, Upper Peninsula Michigan Works, Bay College, Gogebic Community College, and our CTE directors.
Well, and thank you, Jana. And it's a pleasure chatting with you. It's a pleasure getting to this point, working together to make the video and stuff like that, and this question and answer. And if we made one difference in someone's life or sparked a little interest, then I'll feel good tonight when I go to sleep, that maybe somebody stepped up and said, I'll volunteer my time. So thank you.
Thanks.